and welcome back to the Reality podcast, the number one podcast in Ireland. I'm your host Abdul. I'm here just today. Usman's been busy. Oh, sorry, Usman's busy. Yeah, sorry. And welcome to reality. Well, technically we're in it. So welcome to Reality podcast. Uh, I don't know, man. It's going to be a bit slow one because it's just me by myself, and like unlike Khalil and Usman, and I'm not crazy, so I can't talk to myself for a long period of time. So it's going to be a bit weird, to be honest. Like after this, for Tay comes back, and it's going to be a doozy. But anyway, what's called again? Today's podcast is going to be called. Today's podcast topic is King Kong versus Godzilla. Or like a friend of mine told me, or a friend of mine told me, Lizzie versus Monkey, and I don't even know where to start, to be honest, because I don't even know. Like at the end of the day, everyone knows how King Kong versus Godzilla is going to end. It's going to be like Batman versus Superman, which came out in 2016, where they start fighting with each other, bam, bam, show some flashy attacks and all that stuff, and then some guy is going to come, which people are speculating to be Mecha Godzilla, and they're going to team up, and it's going to fight. So like the plot is everyone knows the plot. It's just how are they going to do it? That's the $1 million question, and who knows? Because I sure don't, and to be honest, I sure don't care. But I'm just here for the memes, to be honest. Like, because like, what's life without memes? Sad, ain't it? Speaking of memes, man, I know a friend of mine. Yeah, I forgot his name. I know the only thing I know is that he's ginger. He's probably watching this right now. I hope he ain't. Anyway, and so he sent me this meme. Yeah, scientists have created first ever autistic monkeys. I was thinking, why would anyone want to do that? Well, like autism, like I know no one would like to be autistic, like in life, like realistically, like if someone who had autism was, I'm speculating here, yeah, if they had a choice to what's called here, take a pill and you'll be cured of your autism, I think they'll do that because how there's so much social stigma around people with autism and then the jokes and all that stuff. But anyway, it is man, science, it's a bit weird, like just like how what's called again the what's his name again? The doctor in during the Holocaust. No, that's not Nagelsmann. That's not Julian Nagelsmann. He's the what's called again. He's RB Leipzig what's called again manager. What was that doctor's name? Let me search it up. Doctor for during Holocaust, man. Holocaust. That guy was weird, man. Joseph Mengele, yeah, him. Oh my days, that guy was called nicknamed as the Angel of Death. That guy was a madman. Honestly, God, man, the amount of things he did was weird. Like I think like he used to what's called again, like do performance, maybe do surgeries under anesthesia and all that stuff, man. And he used to like separate twins or something like that. Oh my days, man, he did some really horrible stuff. And he was in Auschwitz, yeah, he was in Auschwitz, yeah, during the time. And he died in 1979 in Brazil. Why am I not surprised? Like some people speculate Hitler went to Argentina. Who knows, man? So like, let's go search up Julius Mengele. So let's talk about Joseph Mengele because I have nothing else to do. So according to Wikipedia, was a German SS officer and physician during World War II, and he is mainly remembered for his actions at the Auschwitz concentration camps, where he performed deadly experiments on prisoners, and was a member of the team of doctors who selected victims to be killed in the gas chamber, and was one of the doctors who administered the gas. This guy is terrible, man. Red Army troops sweeping through Poland. Mengele was transferred 280 kilometers from Auschwitz to the Gross-Rosen concentration camp on 17th of January 1945, just 10 days before the arrival of the Soviet force at Auschwitz. So let's see the experiments on what's called again on people. So according to Wikipedia, the Nazi human experimentation was a series of medical experiments on a large number of prisoners, including children, by Nazi Germany in its concentration camp in the early to mid 1940s during World War II and the Holocaust. The chief target population included Romani, Sinti. What's Sinti? Sinti, Romani people Central. Oh yeah, that number on 200,000 people. They were traditional itinerant. What's itinerant? Travelers or gypsies, as they call it. Hopefully, I didn't offend anyone saying that. If I did, I apologize. But today, only a small percentage of Sinti remain uncertain. In early times, they frequently lived on the outskirts of communities. The Sinti of Central Europe were mostly German, are closely related to the group known as the Manouche in France, and they speak the distinct Sinti Manouche variety of Roman, which exhibit strong German influence. They are first mentioned outside Sinti in 11,000 by the Arab chronicler Maidani, and are an ethno-linguistic group that is one of the oldest Indian subcontinent diaspora in Europe. Oh, so that's Sinti. I never heard of that. Never knew them. You learn something new every day. So there's Sinti, ethnic Poles, sorry, what I say, Poles, Soviet, POD, prison wars, disabled Germans, man. And they hate, I swear to God, everyone hates the disabled. I don't know why. And Jews from across Europe. And Nazi physicians and their assistant forced prisoners to participate. They did not willingly volunteer, and no consent was given for the procedure. And typically, the experiments were conducted without anesthesia and resulted in death. I don't know, man. It's 11 o'clock. I can't read. Death, trauma, disfigurement, or permanent disability, and as such are considered examples of medical torture. Without anesthesia, man. Anesthesia is really good, man. Like just think about it. Like pulling a nail out, yeah, hurts like so much, yeah. But imagine someone stabbing you, yeah, and, like taking out your guts and innards and all that stuff, yeah, without anesthesia. Like I remember there was just one game I played as a kid, yeah. But this was like you get like a puppet or something like that, and you just torture him to death. I remember a friend of mine told me about it, and I played it. Imagine that happened to you in real life, man. But that's so man. Anyway, let's continue. At Auschwitz, another camps under the direction of Edward Wurtz, who was a chief SS doctor, and selected inmates. So under the direction of the Edward Wurtz, where selected inmates were subjected to various experiments that were designed to help German military personnel in combat situations develop new weapons, aid in the recovery of military personnel who would be injured, and to advance the Nazi racial ideology, which was what was that right? Oh, the Aryan race. Believe they were better. Some bullshit there. Albert Haim, a guy who was another doctor, who was also known as Dr. Death and Butcher of, I'm going to butcher this, ironic, of Mauthausen. Butchered it. I'm sorry for that. After the wars, these criminals were tried at what became known as the Doctors' Trials, and this occurred during what year? This occurred during started in 9th of December 1946 and ended 28th of August 1947. And revulsion at the abuse perpetrated led to the development of the Nuremberg Code of Medical Ethics. Yeah, I heard about that one. I had to learn it this year's season. This semester was so annoying, so boring to be honest. The Nazi physician in the doctor's trial argued that military necessity justified the torture experiments and compared the victims to collateral damage from Allied bombers. But this defense, which was wait, what did they say again? I didn't read. The Nazi physician in the doctor's trial argued that military necessity justified the torture experiment and compared the victims to collateral damage from Allied bombers. This defense, which was in any case rejected by a tribunal, cannot apply to experiments of Joseph Mengele, which were performed on children and had no connection to military necessities. Joseph Mengele, man. He was worst out of the worst. So let's see if the experiment. So let's start about the experiment on twins, which we just talked about by Joseph Mengele, where experiment on twin children in concentration camps were created to show the superiority of hereditary over environment and to find ways to increase germ reproduction rates. No, wait, before we go back to that, I heard about this, what's it called again? This thing on Twitter, where German people were told to, what's it called again? Were told to, especially military, were told to reproduce outside Germany in order to bring back more what's called again people who were in order to breed Germans, which were the Aryan race, which were blue-eyed and blonde hair, which is surprising because Hitler had brown hair and brown eyes. A hypocrite, man. Anyway, and they just bleed their hereditary. Anyway, go back to the experiments on twins. The central lead of the experiments was Joseph Mengele, who from 1943 to 1944 performed experiments on nearly 15,000 sets of imprisoned twins in Auschwitz. Bro, that's a lot, man. About 200 people survived. Only 200, so 13,000 dead. Bro, this guy has a huge kill count, man. He's terrible, man. What a terrible guy. The twins were arranged by age and sex and kept in barracks between experiments, which ranged for amputation, affected them with various disease, and injecting dyes to their eyes to change their color. He also attempted to create conjoined twins by sewing twins together, causing gangrene and eventually death. After one twin would be forced to undergo experimentation, while the other was kept as a control. If the experimentation reached the point of death, the second twin would be brought in to be killed at the same time. Doctors would then look at the effects of experimentation and compare both bodies. Bruh, this guy was mad. That's disgusting. Like, man had no sympathy for all this shit. What a weird chap, man. Honestly, no, not weird. Weird, like, be like something wrong with him. This guy was, how do I say it? Was just disgusting, man. Honestly, God. Anyway, let's keep reading. Bone, muscle, and nerve transplantation experiments. So, from about September 1942 in September to December 1943, experiments were conducted at which I'm going to butcher the name again, Ravensbrück concentration camp for the benefit of German armed forces to study bone, muscle, and nerve regeneration. A fun fact: nerve doesn't regenerate. I think it's only the peripheral nerve system, and that it's only the supporting bodies that actually regenerate. I think it's only the axons of them, but most of the time, nerve does not regenerate. Some fun fact, you know. And then bone transplantation from one person to another. These experiments, subjects had their bone, muscles, and nerve removed without anesthesia, which must have hurt, man. Because like, even get like a knife cut, man, hurts. Imagine like, oh, I can't even describe this, man. This is just some disgusting stuff. As a result of these operations, many victims suffered intense agony, mutilation, and permanent disability. On 12th August 1946, a survivor named, which I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, but that's unfortunately, Jadwiga Kaminska gave a deposition about her time at Ravensbrück concentration camp and described how she was operated on twice. Both operations involved one of her legs, and although she never described having any knowledge as to what exactly the procedure was, she explained that both times she was in extreme pain and developed a fever post-surgery, but was given little to no aftercare. Kaminska described being told that she had been operated on simply because she was younger and a Polish patriot. She describes how her leg was pus for months after the operation. Prisoners were also experimented by having their bone marrow injected with bacteria to study the effectiveness of new drugs being developed for the use in the battlefield. Those who survived remained permanently disfigured. Damn, that's just dark, man. That's just disgusting. Anyway, gotta move on, you know. Keep reading. In mid 1940, head injury experiments. So in the mid 1940, in which unfortunately I'm going to butcher your name. I'm going to butcher it again. Sorry for anyone who's Polish. Baranowice occupied Poland. Baranowice, a place in Poland which was occupied. Experiments were conducted in a small building behind the private home occupied by a known Nazi SD security service officer, in which a young boy of 11 or 12 was strapped to a chair so he could not move. Above him was a mechanized hammer that every few seconds came down upon his head. The boy was driven insane in the torch. And that's sad. Like, how do you have no mercy? Like, you see a little kid, man, 11 or 12, man, and you just commit crimes like this, man. This is just atrocious, man. Really disgusting stuff, man. It's just, I don't know, man. I just can't say anything, man. I don't know what to say, man. I don't even know how to describe this. It's just really disgusting. We'll keep going. Let's keep reading. Freezing experiments. In 1941, the Luftwaffe conducted experiments with the intent of discovering means to prevent and treat hypothermia. And what is hypothermia, before everyone asks? It's defined as a body core temperature below 35 degrees in human. Symptoms depends on the temperature. In mild hypothermia, there's shivering and mental confusion. In moderate hypothermia, shivering stops and confusion increases. In severe hypothermia, there may be paradoxal undressing, in which a person removes their clothing, as well as an increased risk of heart stopping. So, I think the reason they did that experiment for hypothermia, because you know how like during fights and all that stuff, yeah, and then when it crash lands, like I remember like planes do crash land. Sometimes they crash land into the sea, and you know the sea's going to be freezing cold. So that's probably why they did it, but I'm not really sure. So here's an Exeter's death table compiled by Sigmund Rascher. Who's he? Was a German doctor as well. Why am I not surprised, man? Everyone here on this is a German doctor. Attempt number 5. So basically, it says attempt number, water temperature, body temperature, removed from water, body temperature at death, time in water, time of death. This has all the stuff, key things in it. And another study placed prisoners naked in the open air for several hours within temperatures low as -6 degrees Celsius. Or 21 degrees Fahrenheit for all the Americans out there who don't use the proper metric system. Besides studying the physical effects of cold exposure, the experimenters also assessed different methods of rewarming survivors. One assistant later testified that some victims were thrown into boiling water for rewarming. Boiling water. Man, this is some weird ass. This is some fucked shit, man. Beginning in August 1942 at the Dachau, I'm going to butcher this, Dachau camp, prisoners were forced to sit in tanks of freezing water for up to 3 hours. After subjects were frozen, that they underwent different methods for rewarming. Many subjects died in this process. I'm not surprised, man. Shit happens, bro. That's just disgusting, man. The freezing hypothermia experiments were conducted for the Nazi High Command to stimulate the conditions the army suffered on the Eastern Front when they were fighting the Russians. Yes, I knew it had something to do with some fighting because in cold conditions. Huh. As Napoleon once says, you never fight the Russians during winter because you know you're going to freeze to death. Many experiments were conducted on capturing Russian troops. The Nazis wondered whether their genetics gave them superior resistance to cold. The principal locals were Dachau and Auschwitz. Sigmund Rascher, an SS doctor based at Dachau, report directly to, I'm going to butcher this, Reiches Führer SS Heinrich Himmler, and published the results on this freezing experiment at the 1942 medical conference entitled Medical Problems Arising from Sea in Winter. Excuse me. In a letter from 10th September 1942, Russia described an experiment on intense cooling performed in Dachau where people were dressed in fighter pilot uniforms and submerged in freezing water. Russia had some of the victims completely underwater and others only submerged up to the head. Approximately 100 people are reported to have died as a result of these experiments. I think that's more, to be honest. There's more people that died than 100 people because, like, you never get the full statistics. And then some more here. We just think about there's some even weird more what's called again experiments. I'll just give you a brief through of just the malaria experiment, immunization experiment, epidemic jaundice, mustard gas experiment, sulfonamide experiment, seawater experiment, sterilization and fertility experiment. Oh, I want to read this one because I heard about this. My friend told me this once. So I think this has to do with eugenics because eugenics is some weird shit. So anyway, let's read. What does it say? What does Wikipedia says? So the law for the prevention of genetically defective progeny was passed on. I think what was that? Oh, restoration was. So this was statute in 1900, enacted on July 14, 1942, which allowed the compulsory sterilization of any citizen with the opinion of genetic health court, suffering a list of alleged genetic disorders. Yes, eugenics. I knew it had something to do with eugenics. So they like, what's it called again? Wait, give me a second. Anyway, so okay, yeah, it has to do with eugenics. I knew it's just weird stuff. So anyway, let's read. Which legalized the involuntary sterilization of persons with disease claimed to be hereditary, weak-mindedness, schizophrenia, alcohol abuse, insanity, blindness, deafness, and physical deformities. The law was used to encourage growth of the Aryan race through the sterilization of persons who fell under the quota of being genetically defective. 1% of citizens between the age of 17 and 24 had been sterilized within 2 years of the law passing. Within 4 years, 300,000 patients had been sterilized. From about March 1941 to about January 1945, sterilization experiments were conducted at Auschwitz, Ravensbrück, other places by Karl Kloberg, who probably was an SS, what's called again, so the doctor as well. I'm not gonna link touch link because I can't be asked. The purpose of these experiments was to develop a method of sterilization which would be suitable for sterilizing millions of people with a minimum of time and effort. The targets for sterilization included Jewish and Roman population. These experiments were conducted by means of X-ray surgery and various drugs. Thousands of victims were sterilized. Aside from its experimentation, the Nazi government sterilized around 400,000 people as part of its compulsory sterilizing program. Karl Kloberg was the leading research developer in the search for a cost-effective and efficient means of mass sterilization. He was particularly interested in experimenting on women from age 20 to 40 who had already given birth. Man had a weird fetish. Prior to any experiments, Clawberg x-rayed women to make sure that there was no obstruction to their ovaries. Next, over the course of 3 to 5 sessions, he injected the women's cervixes with the goal of blocking their fallopian tube. The women who stood against him and experiments or deemed as unfit testers were said to be killed in the gas chambers. This is a weird guy. Intravenous injection of solutions speculated to contain iodine and silver nitrate were successful but had unwanted side effects, such as vaginal bleeding, severe abdominal pain, and cervical cancer. That's research. Cervical cancer. Therefore, radiation treatment became the favorite choice of sterilization. Specific amounts of exposure to radiation destroyed a person's ability to produce ova or sperm, sometimes administered through deception. Many suffered severe radiation burns. The Nazis also implemented X-ray radiation treatment in their search for mass sterilization. They gave the women abdomen X-rays. Men received them on their genitalia for abnormal periods of time in an attempt to invoke fertility. After the experiment was complete, they surgically removed the reproductive organism, often without anesthesia, for further lab analysis. MD William E. Simon, professor from University of Toronto, in collaboration with Dr. Howard Israel of Columbia University, published a report on an investigation on the medical experimentation performed in Austria under the Nazi regime. In that report, he mentions a Dr. Hermann Steve who used World War to experiment on live humans. Stevie specifically focused on the reproductive system. Women he would tell women their date of death in advance, and he would evaluate how the psychological distress will affect their menstruation cycles. After they were murdered, he would dissect and examine their reproductive organs. Some of them were raped after they were told that the date they would be killed, so that Steve could study the path of sperm through their reproductive system. That is some disgusting stuff, man. And there's still more. So you go experiment with poison, incendiary bomb experiments, high altitude experiments, blood coagulation experiments, electroshock experiments. Awesome fucked up shit. But anyway, let's read the aftermath. So, after a document transcription from Henry Clement included phrases such as "these researchers can be performed by us with particular efficiency because I personally assume the responsibility for supplying asocial individuals and criminals who deserve only to die from concentration camps for these experiments. Many of the subjects died as a result of the experiments conducted by the Nazis, while many of them were murdered after the tests were completed to study the effects post-mortem. Those who survived were often left mutilated, suffering permanent disability, weakened bodies, and mental distress. On 19 August 1947, doctors captured by Allied forces were put on trial in USA versus Karl Brandt, ETAL, commonly known as the Doctors' Trial. At the trial, several doctors argued in their defense that there's no international law regarding medical experimentation. Some doctors also claimed that they had been doing the world a favor. As this doctor was quoted saying that Jews were the festering appendix in the body of Europe. And you know, appendix, people think it's useless and they should get rid of it. So this guy was trying to say that Jews were useless and they should get rid of Jews, which was appalling from him saying that. I'm ashamed as as a human being that someone would say that, especially as a person in the medical field, man. That's just appalling, man. He then went on to argue he was doing the world a favor by eliminating them. The issue of informed consent had previously been controversial in German medicine. In 1900, when Albert Neisse infected patients, mainly prostitutes, with syphilis without their consent. Excuse me, sorry. Despite Neisse's support from most of the academic community, public opinion led by psychiatrist Albert Moore was against Neisse, while Neisse went on to be fined by a rule disciplinary court. Anyway, let's just skip through because I don't think we have all day. So, at the end of the day, what happened? Oh, yes. At the end of the day, it led to the trial, which led to the Nuremberg, yeah, I think it's called Nuremberg thing. Nuremberg Code. And the Nuremberg Code, what was it? It was what's called again, based on it was based on 10 points, which usually has to do with consent. So, even though, as you can see from the topic, why are we talking about this? Because you know what this is? History always finds a way to repeat itself, you know. And like before, during 1945, during World War II, sorry, when this was all happening, the world was quiet. And today, nearly a decade later, sorry, nearly more than a decade later, nearly a century later, history is repeating itself with the Uyghurs in in what's called in China, while they're doing all this stuff, and the world has kept silent. And probably in a few years' time, when we're all dead and buried, some other two people might bring about a podcast and talk about what the Chinese did to the Uyghurs. I say that hopefully history will never repeat itself. But due to greed, capitalism, and all this stuff, what's called again, uh, this was bound to happen because as I say, if you don't learn from history, history's going to come back. That was a famous quote from me. Write it down one day. Hopefully you get there. And we're 25 minutes in, and Usman ain't back yet. And this topic's supposed to be Godzilla versus Kong. And Mr. Chris, can you please stop spying? When I can see what you're trying to send. Please stop it, man. Just grow up, man. Please. I beg of you. Anyway, what's calling? It's just weird how the Earth, not sorry, how the world turns a blind eye to the what's called again to how the world turns an eye when stuff like these happen, and only care after. Just weird, ain't it? How history's going to repeat itself. And then a few years later, we just put on history books, slapping on history books. Bang! This is what happened, and we have to be better, do better. But reality, like we people say we should do better, but we never actually do. Because at the end of the day, we only care about ourselves, man, and we only care about ourselves like we don't care about ourselves. Then okay, then why should we care about others? That's just how it is, man. That's just how it is. And the problem is, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a solution. I don't have the answers, man. I'm just still trying to navigate through this weird world that we live in. Still trying to find a way. Still trying to survive. Trying to get from one place to another. But Mr. Chris, can you please stop spying on us, man? I don't want to block you, bro. Like, come on, man. I can see your text, man. They're very inappropriate, man. But anyway, it is. It's not. It is. I can't say it is what it is, man. After reading that, because I gotta say, it was very dark. Oh, I bet if Usman doesn't come back, if Usman doesn't come back, this sorry, the whole point of that is if Usman doesn't come back, it's going to be titled, uh, what's it called again, talking about history. Just a picture of what, and then when someone clicks, oh, let's look about history, they'll be like, oh, it's about the Joseph Mengele and his experimentation. I think he's a friend of mine. I remember a friend of mine. He was on this podcast, Keeling Green. I remember back in secondary school, he did his project on. I think it was Joseph Mengele, yeah, if I can remember. But yeah, he did that. I never read it. I wish I did, man. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I think I didn't mind on what's called again on. What did I didn't mind on? Oh, I didn't mind on the. Oh, I can't remember his name. He was like the. He was a Olympic. He was an Olympic. What's it called an Olympic sprinter, and then he went to 1938 Berlin Olympics. Jesse Owens, yes, Jesse Owens. I remember. I didn't mind on Jesse Owens. I remember I was going to do on someone else. I was going to do it on the Iraqi war, but the Iraqi war was just so boring. No, it wasn't boring. It's like there's so much information that it was hard to condense. And then during the summer, I watched a movie on Jesse Owens. I was like, yeah, I like this movie. I might do my. And then I just found out who Jesse Owens was. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it about Jesse Owens. I did, and I did really well. To be honest, like in terms, I think I got like 18 or 20 or something like that from that, which wasn't that bad. I appreciate it. Look, it was really nice. Yeah, but Jesse Owens, man. For anyone, for anyone what's going, you want to know more about Jesse Owens, like if you should read the book Triumph, Triumph, Je, who's the author? Is it Triumph? Oh my, let me search it. I think it was, but there's a Jesse Owen autobiography. Uh, what was it called? I remember my teacher gave it to me. Oh, I can't remember. I think it was autobiography. I think autobiography. So when someone writes it about you, isn't it? Oh my days! I can't find this book, man. Oh, I'm not even home, so I can't even see it. I can't even like go to my room and just search up. Oh, what's the book about? What's the name of the book? Yes, it was Tramp. I knew it. Tramp, the Untold Story of Jesse Owens and Hitler's Olympics by Jeremy Schaap. Yes, I knew it. It's a good book. If any of you guys are interested, you should watch it. Sorry, no, you should read it. Sorry. And then there's a Jesse Owens movie as well. What was that one called again? Probably it's called Jesse Owens. I just don't know. Uh, Jesse Owens movie. Yeah, Jesse Owens movie. It's called Race. Yeah, and it came out in 2016 Toronto. And it's directed by Stephen Hopkins, and it stars Stephen James as Jesse Owens and Jason Sudeikis as Larry Snyder, who was his coach, who helped him become the greatest ever. Well, one of the greatest. He's like the Customado for what's called Mike Tyson. But that's how it is, man. But I say, man, it's like 30 minutes. Usman's not even here, man. I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? And I'm just going through the comments. Yeah, we're getting loads of comments today, but it's all about Mr. Crisp. You know what? Let me just highlight one thing. One of his comments. I appreciate it. A comment, Mr. Crisp. Boring podcast, boring podcast, boring podcast, boring podcast. I appreciate you. Appreciate the feedback, my guy. Oh, but anyways, man, like Usman's not here, so like it's just me, and I'm boring. I tried my best. Tried to spice it up, but it happens, and so. I'll give it like 2 minutes. If Usman ain't back, or should we just end it? So now Usman has to change title to into reality podcast. Abdul talks about what's called in Jewish about the Holocaust and all that stuff. Which I don't know, man. It is what it is, man. So I think I end it here, man. I say thanks for watching or for listening or something like that, man. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know. Some of you guys just watch it and be like, "This guy is just trash," which I don't blame him. And that, if you enjoyed it, which most of you guys didn't, okay. If you enjoyed it, then thank you, I guess. If you didn't, thank you as well. At the end of the day, it's a free country. You do whatever you want, and I hope you see you guys this week, Friday. Oh, sorry, Saturday. Sorry, it's Friday. We don't do this Friday. And I'll highlight a last comment from Mr. Crisp, and we end it here. D. Thank you, Mr. Crisp. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye bye and peace out.